Hello! Welcome back to my channel. I am Ma'am Agape and this is Research Writing Series Episode 3. For this episode, we will be discussing about sampling techniques. Now, disclaimer, I am not an expert, but I will try to somehow explain this topic. So without further ado, let's get started! In conducting research, we need to collect data or to gather data. Now, in collecting data, it is important to select your respondents or the people who will be involved or who will participate in our research study. This is where sampling comes in. Sampling refers to the method or the process of selecting respondents or people to answer questions meant to yield data for a research study. So, eto yung pamamaraan kung paano natin kukunin yung mga respondents or yung mga tao na magpa-participate sa ating research study. Kukunin natin yung respondents from the bigger group which is called population. Population, it is the entirety or the total number of individuals in a certain area or community. Ito yung kabuuan ng numbers of students sa school, kabuuan ng inhabitants sa isang barangay. Out of the big group which is called population, we will select the people or the respondents and the chosen ones are called sample. Now, bakit kailangan natin ng sample? Kunwari yung study natin is municipal level. And for example, yung sa municipality, meron tayong 12,000 people. Hindi naman pwedeng lahat ng 12,000 na yun i-interview natin or i-survey natin, diba? That is why kailangan natin ng sample. And itong sample na to, sila yung magiging representative ng total population. So, there are two types of sampling techniques. We have probability sampling or the unbiased sampling and the non-probability sampling. Ano yung difference ng dalawa? So, yung probability sampling or the unbiased sampling, it involves all members listed in the sampling frame representing a certain population focused in by the study. It gives equal chance of participation to all the members of the population. Lahat merong pagkakataon na mag-participate dun sa research study. Meanwhile, non-probability sampling, it disregards random selection of subjects. The subjects are chosen based on their availability or the purpose of the study, or in some cases, in the discretion of the researcher. So, medyo biased siya. Now, there are different types of probability and non-probability sampling. Let us first discuss probability sampling. Here are the basic types of probability sampling. First is the simple random sampling or SRS. SRS is also called fishbowl. It uses a pure chance selection where you assure every member the same opportunity to be part or to be in the sample. So, para siyang fishbowl. Diba, in pageants, pag mag-Q&A na or mag-question and answer portion na, pumapasok na yung mahiwagang fishbowl. Yung question will be from the fishbowl. So, whichever is picked from the fishbowl, yun yung maging katanungan sa contestant. Parang ganun din yung sa SRS or sa simple random sampling. Whichever name is picked from the list of the members, sila yung magkakaroon ng chance to participate in the research study. Paano siya nangyayari? For example, meron tayong listahan ng mga members of the sampling frame. Then, you write each name on a piece of paper on a card. Then, you pick a card. Kung kaninong pangalan yung nakalagay dun sa card na yun, sila yung magpa-participate sa research study. Or pwede rin na ililist natin yung members, names ng members, and each member, you assign a number. So, yung ilalagay lang natin dun sa piece of paper ay yung number. For example, yung nakuha natin is number 32 at yung ika-number 32 dun sa listahan ay si Juan de la Cruz. Si Juan de la Cruz yung magpa-participate dun sa ating research study. Ganun yung simple random sampling. So, lahat merong chance. As in, lahat. Now, moving on, we have the second type which is systematic sampling. Systematic sampling, for instance, if you want to have a sample of 150 students out of a total population of 1,500, you may select a set of numbers from 1 to 15 at kukunin mo yung every 15th name dun sa listahan. 15, 30, 45. So, kung kaninong pangalan yung nasa number na yun, sila yung magpa-participate dito sa ating respondents. Depende sa kung anong sistema yung isiset natin as a researcher. Pwede na magpipick tayo from 0 to 9. Then, for example, nakukuha natin 7. So, yung kukunin natin as respondents are all names which have 7 dun sa numbers nila. like 7, 47, 73, whatsoever. So, meron tayong sistema. Ganun yung systematic sampling. Compared sa SRS or simple random sampling where nagpipick lang tayo ng random names or numbers. Third is the stratified sampling. Stratified sampling, the group comprising the sample is chosen in a way that such group is liable to subdivision during the data analysis stage. So, sa stratified sampling, i-divide natin yung total population or yung sampling frame natin into different groups or what we call strata. Depende sa kung anong hinihingi ng ating research study. For example, pwede natin i-divide yung sampling frame natin into different strata like educational attainment, by gender, by age bracket. So, kunwari, na-divide natin sila into age bracket, 15 to 20, 21 to 25, 26 to 30. So, meron na tayong tatlong strata. So, in stratified sampling, it allows you as a researcher to have equal amount of participants per strata. Pwede tayong kumuha ng 5 respondents from age 15 to 20, 5 rin from 21 to 25, another 5 from 26 to 30. So, that is how stratified sampling is used. Next, and the fourth is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling, this is a probability sampling that makes you isolate a set of persons instead of individual members. So, grupo, naka-cluster sila to serve as sample members. So, for example, kailangan natin ng 120 respondents or sample out of 1,000 students. Hindi naman 120 students per section, diba? So, pwedeng gawin natin is kumuha tayo ng tig 40 students from 3 sections, 40 students from section A, another 40 from section B, another 40 from section C para ma-constitute natin yung sample which is 120. Another example for cluster sampling is the sampling frame is grade 11 students at yung grade 11 students meron tayong 3 section for example at hindi naman lahat yun ay makaka-answer ng research questions natin. So, kukuha lang tayo ng isang section doon to be our sample for the study. Paano natin siya kukunin? Gagamit tayo ng SRS or simple random sampling. Again, ilalagay natin in a piece of paper, section A, section B, section C. So, kung anong section yung makuha natin from the piece of paper that we got from simple random sampling, yun yung magiging sample natin. For example, yung nakuha natin is section C. So, yung section C, sila yung magiging sample natin who will represent the whole grade 11 students. So, ganun yung cluster sampling. You identify your sample by isolating a set of persons or a set of people. So, those are the 4 types of probability sampling. Again, probability sampling, you give equal chance to everyone to participate in your study. Now, let us move on to the second type of sampling technique which is non-probability sampling. Sa non-probability sampling compared sa probability sampling, dito meron tayong biases. The respondents can be chosen based on availability, the purpose of the study, judgment of the researcher. First type of non-probability sampling is the quota sampling. So, quota sampling para rin siyang stratified sampling. In quota sampling, you choose sample members possessing or indicating the characteristics of the target population. So, para siyang stratified sampling pero gumagamit tayo ng proportion of groups based in the population. Kung sa stratified, kukuha tayo ng equally tig-4 or tig-5 respondents from each group. Dito sa quota sampling, it will be based sa population ng strata or ng every group. For example, sa bracket ng 15 to 20 years old, merong 20 na belong. And then, dito naman sa 21 to 25, merong 10. So, yung pagkuha natin ng respondents, kung sa stratified, tig-5, equally, dito sa quota sampling, magbe-base siya sa population. So, kung merong 20, dito sa 15 to 20, mas malaking percentage of respondents yung kukunin natin sa kanila. Kasi mas malaki yung population nila. Pwede tayong kumuha ng like 50% of the population of the 15 to 20. Again, sa quota sampling, it will be based sa proportion. Hanggang ma-meet natin yung quota or yung desired number of respondents na kailangan natin for our research study. Second type of non-probability sampling is voluntary sampling. Voluntary sampling, by the name itself, voluntary, meaning your respondents are those who volunteer to answer your research questions or your instruments. Since the subjects you expect to participate in the sample selection are the ones volunteering to constitute the sample, hindi mo na kailangan pang mag-undergo ng selection process kasi sila na mismo yung nag-volunteer to answer or to participate in the research study. Third is availability sampling. Availability sampling is also called convenience sampling. It takes place if during the data collection, you encounter people who show willingness to respond to your questions. Kung sino yung available doon at willing naman silang sumagot ng research question mo, sila na yung magiging sample natin. It is easier, it requires less time. And fourth type of non-prob is purposive sampling. Purposive sampling, or also called judgment sampling, it is where you choose people whom you are sure could respond to the objectives of your study. Sa pagpili ng respondents, make sure that these respondents will meet the objectives or the goals of your study. Like selecting those people who have wide knowledge, rich experience, or who are expert and have interest in the study. For example, yung study natin is about selfies. So, hindi naman pwede na yung i-interview natin or yung mga taong hindi nagsa-selfie, di ba? So, dapat yung i-interview or yung sinisurvey natin are those people who have wide knowledge or whom we believe can answer our research questions. In purposive sampling, sometimes the researchers set a criteria and select people who fit the criteria as respondents. For example, sa selfie, meron kang criteria na dapat nag-take ng selfie, age 15 to 21 years old, who posts selfies on Facebook, or active on social media. So, if these people meet the criteria, they can be your respondent. Again, yung purposive sampling, yung pagpili natin ng respondents is based sa kung makakasagot ba and makakamit ba ng objectives ng study natin yung taong yon or hindi. And lastly, the fifth type of non-probability sampling is the snowball sampling. Diba yung snow, the more it rolls, the more it accumulates ice. Hanggang lumalaki, nag-expand siya. Ganon din yung snowball sampling. It is usually used in studies where you don't know the total population of your respondents. It is free to obtain from any group, just like snow freely expanding and accumulating at a certain pace. You tend to increase the number of people you want to form the sample of your study. It is based usually on referral system. Para siyang networking, wherein the participants of the study can recruit other members or other people who will answer the research questions or the survey or the interview. Yun nga, parang networking. So, si respondent A, i-recruit niya si respondent B, si respondent B magre-recruit kay respondent C at saka D, hanggang dumami hanggang makuha yung kailangan na data ng researcher. So, those are the different types of probability and non-probability sampling. Again, for probability sampling, we have simple random sampling or SRS, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. Meanwhile, in non-probability sampling, we have quota sampling, voluntary sampling, availability or convenience sampling, purposive sampling or judgment sampling, and the snowball sampling. Sometimes you can merge different types of sampling as long as they belong in the same sampling technique. Sa probability, you can merge cluster sampling using SRS, or sa non-probability, you can have purposive sampling using snowball sampling, wherein your respondents are referred as long as they meet the criteria set in your purposive sampling method. So again, those are the different types of sampling techniques. There is no such thing as perfect technique. It will all base sa kind of data na kailangan natin and also with the time and resources that are available to the researchers. Now, advantage of probability sampling is that it is more representative to the total population, while in non-probability, medyo biased siya. So, hindi siya ganun ka representative of the population. But non-probability sampling is easier and takes less time and effort, especially for those who have time constraints. So that's it, you guys. I hope that you have learned something from me today. That is all about the different types of sampling techniques, the non-probability and the probability sampling. Always consult your research advisors and statisticians for this kind of concerns, because hindi ako expert pagdating dito. But I hope that you have learned something from me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!